A quorum is present. At this time, I'm requesting motion in a second to add a closed session for emergency legal matters.
So moved, Linda Lipko, Ward 1.
Second, Heather Robinette, Ward 2.
All in favor? Any opposed? Ayes have it. Now we're going into a closed session. I request a motion in a second to go into closed session
Mayor.
We'd like to have that close at 6:30.
at 6:30.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, then let's start.
I can explain why.
Okay. I withdraw the call for the motion in a second. Okay,
Mayor, Council, again, pleasure to be here. The reason we need to move it to 6:30 is because the gentlemen from county have already a thing at 6:30 and the emergency law or the attorney thing. We have a little bit more time.
okay,
We can use.
fine,
Okay, sorry about that.
no problem.
So, want me to go ahead and start?
Yes, go.
Okay.
Get started.
So Mayor, Council, a while back, first off, we have Joe, and I'm gonna mess his last name up, Khaleesi. And I believe Adam Spector with us from St. Louis County. Back a month or so ago, we had the 80-20 plan come up. And at that time, we wanted to bring in county to discuss on what the 80-20 was, why the 20%. After talking to Joe and them, we both kind of agreed that this project can be put on for a later date and that we can go after federal funds, and then this way the city would not be out any 20%. When we're looking at 20% now, we're looking at upwards of close to 600,000, maybe potentially more than that.
We're referring to the Hereford and Chambers.
Give him an opportunity to finish speaking.
This
please.
is the Hereford roundabout project that we're talking about. And so with construction prices and materials, prices have just skyrocketed. And once I give the floor to Joe, he can tell you a little bit more about Airport Road and the financial burden that now is being put on St. Louis County because of the price increase in all the demands. With that being said, this project also is in a little bit of a competition with the Elizabeth project of the street overlay and repair. As we all heard in the recent news, county's cutting back on a lot of projects, and it's due to funding because of the pricing of the materials and construction workers. So my recommendation to council, as we move forward, is to look for this down the road farther. And Joe can speak on some of the light changes that they've done in that area. Joe, if you want to chime in, you can help out here a little bit on that portion.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for hearing from us today. Very much appreciate your time.
Joe, hold on one second. Can you speak now?
Yeah, yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Not yet.
Can you?
Try
All
now.
right. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Excellent.
And
So
hopefully I
thank you very
didn't
much.
destroy your name, Joe.
My name is Joe Kalesa. I'm Acting Deputy Director for Transportation and Public Works. And thank you for hearing me today. Very much appreciate your time. So the Hereford Chambers intersection, the roundabout project, when it was first conceived, there was a desire to move it forward by the city manager at that time without utilizing federal funding. Between then and now, we have seen dramatic increases in construction costs. On average, projects that we programmed around the era of when we first applied for programming for Hereford and Elizabeth Avenue, we've seen prices go up about 70%. Our Airport Road project, for example, it actually was even higher than that. So there's a lot of uncertainty right now with where pricing is. So much so that we've presented to St. Louis County Council that I have to cut over $26 million from our 5-year plan to be able to even deliver the projects we have on the books. And that's assuming that inflation doesn't continue to skyrocket. So at this time, we think it's a good project, a roundabout at the intersection. And it is a project that we can apply for future federal funds. There's a lot of programs on the horizon with Safe Streets for All, for example, is a grant program that would be ideal for this type of project. It would lower the financial burden significantly for both the county and the city. And I'd like to point out that the county did install traffic signal improvements at the intersection in 2022 to add a left turn arrow and adjust signal timing to make sure that we didn't have any more folks turning in front of drivers that were westbound that was causing those horrific accidents. So in the short term, we think we've taken care of the big issue, and in the long term, we want to proceed or pursue federal funding to make that a great intersection, to make that corridor more pedestrian centric. But financing all of that with local funds, combination of county and city, it is definitely a hardship right now, and there is some uncertainty that could cause the Elizabeth resurfacing project to be in jeopardy depending where prices ultimately fall.
Joe, with us getting rid of this 80-20 plan, would this guarantee that Elizabeth resurfacing would go through?
Yes.
So
Yes, the risk have for pricing would be covered by not having to include the roundabout at this time. Yes.
thank you.
Councilwoman Lipka.
Sir, can you hear me?
Yes.
So prior to the discussion about the roundabout, when we met with some of the people from your office, I'm going to say in early 2022, late 2021, there was discussion that you guys already had a project on the books that was going to put in an extensive new lighting at that intersection. Now, it wasn't the left-hand turn. That was something that I am under, I'm on the traffic commission, but that's something that we had proven a need for, and you addressed it immediately. That was separate from the original plan of a light going in at the Hereford. So when there was talk about possibly a roundabout, then your office said, well, wait a minute. If you want to do a roundabout, we're going to use the money we were going to use for the light to put toward the roundabout, but basically not both. I mean, there was no need, necessity for that. So then it became a conversation of no longer the light, but the roundabout and the whole project there. So my question is, if we're not doing the roundabout, is there still do we still have an opportunity for the new lighting system at that intersection outside of the left turn signal light?
So when we talk about lighting, just to be specific, actual roadway street lighting was never part of this
No, it was a
project.
traffic signal. I'm sorry.
Okay,
Okay.
okay, just making sure we're both on the same page.
Okay.
So the traffic signal, the work that we did was completely county funded. There was no federal participation. So that ate up a part of that budget that would have went to the future project. If we pursue the roundabout, the recommendation would be to not do the remainder of the signal upgrade at that intersection with the current project. With federal grants, they frown on you spending money twice in one location within 10 years, federal money. So if we rebuilt the signal in its totality with federal funds with the resurfacing project, it would probably put a future roundabout grant at risk. So that would, the plan right now would be to leave the signal as it sits today with the improvements, of course, that we made last year, and come back in the future with that grant project.
So the left turn signal that you made last year, that was an immediate need. So you addressed that and it was taken care of through county. The signal upgrade that was originally on the books as a project, what was the cost of that? What was that going to involve? Is there any portion of the signal upgrade at that intersection that could be salvaged and still done? Or you're saying it can't be salvaged because originally it was going to use federal funds and we don't want to overlap the use of federal funds.
Correct. We don't want to overlap the use of federal funds.
So that was
The-
all federal funds that was going to do the signal upgrade originally?
It was federal participation. So the signal that was going to go in was partially federally funded. I don't recall the funding split that was in the application for the Elizabeth project, but I can say with cost escalation, we have more than burned through any savings we are going to see from not constructing those improvements and then some.
Is there any road diet that's still available that was going to be also part of the roundabout project? It was the road diet was going to be much less financially hardship on, part of the project. But is there any
there-
part of that still out there?
I can answer some of that. Ms. Lipka, I can answer some of that because we had the linears and that we were going to put down, but this time we're not putting those down. We have seen a significant decrease in car accidents and especially fatalities since they've done the new upgrades. I don't believe we've even had one fatality at that intersection. I will get you the exact numbers, but the road diet also did not have a turning lane in it, and that's one thing that the fire department, police department did balk at, and that's why we wanted that to go back to the drawing board on that portion. I hope that helped.
I mean, I get it. It helps, but I'm frustrated because the whole intention, I mean, I understand that you're saying there's been no fatalities, but we went a long time without fatalities. And then we started having them because of the speeding, because of the reckless driving. The speeding and the reckless driving hasn't gone away. Now, the left turn signal has made an extreme difference, and that's awesome. But I mean, we're getting ready to go into summertime. We're getting ready to go into the situation where we've got our neighbor, our community members who think those little go-karts are acceptable or those little pocket bikes are acceptable. I mean, we've got, I've seen too many deaths at that intersection to feel comfortable that, this is all going away. I mean, I would like to see us salvage something that shows an effort toward the community to save their lives.
I mean, I think that with that all being said, we have a new police chief. I think he is doing road police enforcement and speed enforcement. I think we also have to give that a shot as well. We do have the linears. If we believe we have to put them out, we can work with county. I can call Joe and we can work out something. We have the linears or wherever they're called at the garage right now. With the light change, I think we have to give things a chance as well.
Are there any other questions?
Just for clarification, the linears, are those similar to the Chandlers, or is that the name of the
Barricades.
barricades?
They're the sticks that can
Right.
bend.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. Any other questions?
Mayor, I have one other thing.
Okay.
So with this, I know Joe on his email says we have to know from council which way we will be going. And we don't have to have it tonight, correct, Joe? But we will have to have an answer to them so that they know which way that they're gonna go with the projects.
We're at the point, yeah, we're at the point where we have to make a decision within the next few days so that we can keep the project on schedule, the Elizabeth resurfacing project, with right-of-way acquisition, and then to bring it through to construction. So we are at a pivotal point. We have very little time left to change, to lock in the plans for MoDOT's approval. So we're trying to make a decision very, very quickly.
Councilwoman Lipka.
Sarah, let me ask you this. Okay, let's push aside the Hereford roundabout signal upgrade. Just discussing the repavement of Elizabeth. Let's say that becomes our main focus. That would work for you guys financially. That's kind of what you would like us to do, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So focusing on Elizabeth, which we also have a lot of speeding problems on Elizabeth, when you are repaving, is there anything that can be done on the edges, the outside edges of Elizabeth, like where that apron is between the sidewalk and the road itself? And it's kind of like, right now it's asphalt and it kind of has an uphill lip to it, not a lip, but a slope to it. I don't know your terms in terms of building things, so I'm doing the best I can. But you have the road, then you have that little apron, then you have the sidewalk, then you have the person's driveway. Is there any way that that can be more pronounced or it done in a manner that can add to safety in some degree? Because right now, if I'm walking down the sidewalk, and I'm not saying it's going to make that much of a difference, but it's, to me, it would be something that maybe it could have the driver, it could make the driver turn their wheel or something if they hit it or came up on it. Because right now, it's almost so level with the sidewalk that if you're walking on the sidewalk and somebody wants to drive up on the sidewalk, they're taking you out. So I didn't know if there was any way that that slope could be much more pronounced so that it almost acts like a bumper.
Unlikely within the scope of the project. I can have staff take a look, but I wouldn't be hopeful.
Joe, is there a potential possibility that we could maybe put a guardrail up at a couple spots that we know that are pretty dangerous?
Send me the locations and we can again take a look to see if it meets warrants.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you
Uh,
for letting me have mine.
Oh, no problem. At this point, we have to make a decision in the next couple of days.
Yes,
Is that not correct?
yes, ma'am.
So why we can't make it tonight
We
since
can't.
we got all the details?
We can.
Okay. Is there a motion on the floor to table the 80% project for Hereford and Elizabeth to a later date?
One last question before we do that, Mayor.
I'm requesting a motion. After we do the motion, you can ask your question.
Yes, ma'am.
So moved, Heather Robinette.
Are there any questions?
I have a question. Mr. Joe, one more question. Moving this project to a later date, I mean, when we're talking about, and I know I'm asking you to read a crystal ball to some extent, but when we're talking about a later date and we're talking about going after federal funding, what do you think logistically we're looking at? Are we looking at 18 months, 2 years? Are we looking as far away as 5, 10 years?
So there are some outliers to that question. I am reasonably confident that the Vision Zero plan East-West Gateway is putting together currently will show this corridor is a high impact need, which should mean it scores very well for Safe Streets for All money, which means hopefully we could be looking at construction in maybe 28 or 29. Even the existing project, keep in mind, it wouldn't be until 25. So that is a delay of a few years, but I'm optimistic that this project would score very well for federal funding. There are also a couple other federal funding sources that we're going to take a hard look at and also pursue. So there's surface transportation block grant. There's transportation alternatives program. We might be able to get CMAQ. A little doubtful on that. We'll have some run some traffic numbers, but we have a number of things we want to run after. So I would say odds are good that we will get the funding. Construction, I don't see it before 2028. Just because of the plan production and right away and all the processes involved with applying for the grant and getting awarded and all that.
Which in reality is 5 years.
Yes.
Okay. Chris, would you call the roll?
Councilman Noah,
Aye.
Councilman Palmer. Aye. Aye. Councilman Robinette,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Councilman Litka,
Aye.
Councilman Nelson.
Motion passed. Thank you.
Joe, thank you for your time tonight.
All right, thank you. I very much appreciate your time tonight. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
That is all I have, Mayor.
Okay. Now you want to go into closed
Please,
session?
please.
Okay. Sounds good to me. Okay. At this time, I'm requesting a motion and a second to go into closed session pursuant to 610.021 subsection 1 to discuss legal.
Second, Aquita Noah.
Deputy Clerk Chris, could you please call the roll?
Councilman Ashby,
Aye.
Councilman Robinette,
Aye.
Mayor Jones,
Aye.
Councilman Lipka,
Aye.
Councilman Nelson, Councilwoman Noah.
Aye.
We are now in closed session.